All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Samugelisi Wenyoga, and today I'm going to be your trainer and facilitator. And with me, I have a whole team. I have Aldane, I have Nonkululego, and I have Kadeko. They will be assisting me with just answering your questions in the chat box. So should you have any questions during the session, please do feel free to just drop them in our chat box. Okay. And just for you to note, this session is being recorded. The recording will be made available on YouTube. So should you want to go back and just go through the content at your own pace, just feel free to go to our YouTube page and check for the video. It's going to be uploaded soon. Okay. And as well, if you just want to maybe be notified when the recording is up, just make sure that you go to our page, you subscribe, and you switch on that notifications bell so that YouTube will notify you as soon as the video has been uploaded. Okay. So today we're looking at Get Ahead 2026 Audit Level 2 Session 3. Again, I just have to congratulate you for reaching Session 3 because this is our last session for the Audit Level 2 series. So congratulations for pushing it this far. Okay, today we're looking at risk assessment at a session level in Audit International. All right, let's look at what we'll be covering. All right. So within the Audit International template, what we've done is that we've developed and provided our auditors with tools to assist them to document the identified risk, accumulate those identified risks, assess the risk of material misstatement, and develop the audit plan. Okay, so those are the tools that we are looking into today. You'll also note that we do have the recording in the e-learning. So what we're covering today is a build-up from what we have in the e-learning. If you haven't had time to go through the video in the e-learning, it's really not a train smash. You will still learn as much as you can from this session, and you can still go back to the e-learning to top up the knowledge with the knowledge that you gain today, right? So today we will be taking a look at those documents and tools that are here to help automate the risk assessment and the audit plan process. The tools we'll look at is your financial statements areas worksheet, your risk dialogue, your control dialogue, your risk reports. There's I think one other tool that we'll just have a look at. And yeah, there's actually more other tools we'll have a look at, but just briefly. Right, let us start. I'm not sure if you had gotten a chance to actually go on and download the content from our community success page, because in that page I had uploaded a file for you. So that file is pre-completed. So there's already some data that I've inputted for you, so that as we work through the file today, you're just working on all information that's already there. But again, if you just want to follow you just want to follow on the screen and just look at me demonstrating how the tool is used, is still fine. All right, so it's either you download or not, it's still fine. All right, now let us go to our caseware file and see how risk assessment has been built. All right, so let us, I want us to look at the risk identification itself. But again, this part has been covered in detail in our recording in the e-learning. So I'll just touch base on it, but I won't be too detailed. For all your risk identification, so after you have obtained an understanding of your client, and from that understanding, identified some of the risks of what could go wrong in the financial statements, right? How you will document them is you will use a tool called the risk dialogue. The risk dialogue was nicely introduced to you in the e-learning, but where to find it is, I'm just gonna open one of like any of the documents. Okay. Let's open maybe this document. In all our automatic documents, we have an icon that is red with an exclamation mark. That's where you document your risk. Okay. But I won't go through it in detail again, like I said. So you document the risk that you would have identified. You document your assessment, like the assessment of your wrong, right? So you'll first assess the inherent risk using the likelihood and magnitude, then your controlled risk, then you'll then come and document your wrong, right? And also indicate if it's a significant risk. And also here with your risk response, you'll just link it and document it here to say, maybe to refer to a working paper where you had responded to that specific risk so that everything in file is interconnected. Then after you've documented all your risks, what they do is that they go and they get accumulated to a document called a risk report. So the risk report document is document 520E. It sits under risk assessment and it's document 520E. Okay, so if you can just open that document, I'll just give you a minute to open it on your side. You will see if you're using my file, I had already documented some of the risks that I had identified from my understanding of wrap-up manufacturing. So you'd also do the same. You'd go and document all the risks that you would have identified. And what happens is, actually, this document is automatic. What happens as you document in that, you see that risk dialogue that I showed you just a few seconds ago. All those risks that you document. So everyone that would be, because there's multiple people working in the file, right? Everyone will be identifying risks as they go, and they will document it in the risk dialogue. Automatically, all those risks will come and pull in the risk report. So should the manager or the audit senior or the supervisor want to just go through a list of all the risks that have been identified in the engagement, they can just browse through the risk report, which will now have accumulated all the risks that have been identified in the engagement. Again, in the e-learning, I went in detail to explain to you how to use this document, how you can filter and tailor it to show the details that you may prefer to see in the document. So I won't go through that in detail for now or for today. What I want us to be looking at in detail now is our scoping. So we have, so remember that in our previous session, we were looking at risk assessment at overall financial statement level. Then we mentioned the document for preparing the risk assessment procedures, which was document 455. So if you open 455, today we are specifically zooming into just one procedure. The one procedure that we're zooming into for today is the scoping procedure. Okay, so what does it say? It says, as you're preparing for your the risk assessment procedures, please do the scoping. What am I doing in the scoping? You're determining or updating overall and performance materiality in Form 420, which is already linked. We're not going to do any materiality calculations, again, because it's covered in detail in the e-learning. Then use Form FSA to identify material classes of transactions, account balances, or disclosures that will require a specific audit response, including treating components of material amounts as separate items, grouping immaterial balances as one FSA area, right? Then they say review material classes of transactions, account balances, or disclosure for which no risk of material misstatement at assertion level has been identified, and determine whether the conclusion that they are not significant classes of transactions or account balances or disclosures remain appropriate. So this is our scoping. We know that there's a lot of technicalities that goes behind that. We're looking at all the ones that are material, and we're looking at all the ones that have relevant assertions being defined as the assertions that have a risk assigned to them, right? So let's go and see how the process works in Audit International. So they are referring us to the FSA. What I would do in this instance, I'll just click on the link to the FSA that they've attached for us. So please click on the link to the FSA. I'm just going to give you again a minute for you to open it, because on my side, it was already open. Okay. What I had done is I had already imported a trial balance in this file. So that is part of the setting up of the file where you imported the trial balance. How does this document work? Specifically for what we're trying to do today. So it assists you with the planning, the risk assessment, and the risk response. This is the entire process that we're trying to understand. Okay, so shortly after opening the FSA document all the time, well, the first time specifically, is you need to click on the refresh button. What this button does is that it automatically pulls the figures from the trial balance that you had imported. Further to it just pulling your figures, it's that it also takes any amounts that are material. So it automatically takes for you any amounts that are above your performance materiality. In instances where you had specific materialities for an account, it also does take that materiality assessment. What you then do from your end after doing all of that is you would need to scroll through and see if there's any maybe items like a disclosure item that is not appearing in the list that you may want to add. And to add it, you just right click and you say insert new item. All right, we're not going to demonstrate that today though. But should you have maybe I'm just trying to think of a disclosure item, commitments and contingencies, you just add them like that. Okay. And another thing that happens is right now, I've filtered this document for it to show only the items that have material figures. But what you can do is you are allowed to go click on options and say you want to see or to the form to display even the non-material items. So you'd go and click non-material items and you see now it displays all these forms. Okay. Let us go back to the options because I do not want to see all the items. By default, it just shows you all the items. That is why you then go back to options to click to not see the immaterial items so that it don't distract you. You want to be focused on the areas that you need to focus on. Okay. But like I said, the logic that has been built into this form is that it takes the classes of transactions or account balances or financial statement areas, let me call them financial statement areas, but the technical name for them is their groups. It only takes the ones that have a material amount. But as auditors, we know that materiality is not about the quantity all the time. Sometimes you have items that are just qualitatively material that you may want to show or you may want to test in your engagement. What you do is before you select that option of displaying the non-material of not displaying the non-material items, you can again scroll through and say, like instance in my case, I have ticked the capital contributions. You see, this is like your share capital. It is below performance materiality, but I've tagged it as material because from my assessment, it's actually qualitatively material. So when you want to factor in items that are qualitatively material, this is how you factor them in. Okay. Another thing that shows in this document is all the risks that you had identified. Remember that as you are identifying the risks, you were linking them to a specific class of transaction or account balance or the financial statement level, and you were stating exactly which assertion it affects. So what happens is there's a column called risk reference. What this column does is that it gives you the number of risks that have been linked to that specific group or that specific class of transaction or account balance. For an example, we know from just viewing this document, we know that there are two risks that have been attached to financial statement level and IT general weakness and controls, right? We have two risks again that are attached to the trade and other receivables. We have three risks that are attached to revenue. One risk is going to, one thing I want to, so here it's separated by assertions, but one thing I want to highlight is if an account balance has a significant risk, then it's indicated by the star. There's more to significant risk that happens, and there's more tools that we have, but they're nicely explained in the e-learning video that I had recorded in the previous Get Ahead series. So you can just go back and check it there. But for now, I just want to show you that we do have this column and it does document for you all the, well, indicate for you that there are risks that are attached to this risk, to this area. Why is this relevant? Why not just look at materiality only? It's because the methodology that we adopt as Audit International is saying you'll be looking at the account balances or the classes of transactions that have relevant assertions, which is them having a risk attached to them. And you'll also look at the ones that are material to just select if maybe there's an assertion that you can test in there. All right. What other automation has been built in Audit International? I want us to just go to the file and I will show you something. Okay. You see what I was showing you there of saying display material items or not display them? That thing is just filtering, but it doesn't delete anything. But remember that when you go to your lead sheets here, lead sheets and working papers, there's all these documents. There's all these sections that have your lead sheet. It has your audit program for both the substantive analytical procedures and your test of detail. It also has sometimes the sampling calculators for some areas. But for our client, wrap-up manufacturing, it's not all these worksheets that are applicable. So some of the sections are not really applicable. What do we need to do then? Do we need to go back and delete each document? No. Or delete each section? No. What we've built in is what we call an optimizer. You'll remember the concept of an optimizer from file setup. But again, when you go to the process of scoping, you do then need to optimize. Now, we're saying the first optimizer during setup was saying, okay, this engagement, the characteristics of it, we know that it's a group company, so we need to have procedures that have to do with testing component auditors and everything, or stuff like those. But here we're just saying, which areas are we going to test? And we're going to delete all, we're going to then set up the template to delete all the programs or the sections that are not really relevant. How do we do that? So there's a document that is called AOCR. That document is sitting under engagement file setup. It's here, right? And you remember we have used it before in our audit when we were optimizing the engagement initially. So let's open it. I'm just going to give you again a minute to open it on your side because I already had it open on my side. Okay. I hope that you have it open. So what this document does is that it looks at your financial statement area after you've generated the figures and marked what is material and what is not material. It looks at that and it says, well, let me tell you the logic that has been built in. It's saying the following documents have been marked for deletion based on materiality considerations in the FSA. So what's happening is the only logic that has been built here is the logic that's looking at, is the figure material or it's not material? But we know as auditors that actually we look at more than just that. If there's a risk attached to an immaterial class of transaction or account balance or disclosure, we'll further need to go in and test that. So why are we in this document and why didn't the tool just automatically delete all the procedures that you don't need? It's that maybe deems it so as immaterial. It's because we want you as an auditor to then now come in and review to say, all right, fine, I have all these accounts that are qualitatively material or quantitatively material. I know they're not part of this list. They won't be part of this list. But from the items that are immaterial, I still have items that have risks attached to them or linked to them. So I still need to test them. Or maybe it's for purposes of unpredictability, because sometimes you just want to put in some unpredictability in your engagement and test a specific area that the client wouldn't expect you to be testing. So here you then say, okay, I see this list. So this list is marked for you that we're going to delete all these documents. But if you see that, oh, I actually want to have prepayments as part of my audit of the areas that I'll audit. So I still want to see its audit program and I want to see its lead sheet. What you'll do is you just deselect it because all the ones that I selected are selected for deletion. Then you scroll through, review which other documents you wouldn't want to have deleted, scroll through. Then you will then at the end click on proceed with deletion and delete all the worksheets that you do not need. That is what scoping is. And that's the automation that we have built for you to assist you with your scoping. Okay, I don't think I should have clicked that proceed with deletion because now it's continuing to execute the script. All right, it's executed. Now done. All right, it also does say who executed that. But should we fear deleting documents? Because now, oh, I've deleted a document, now it's all scary. No, you don't have to fear deleting documents. The documents are not deleted permanently. They're still available in the library. You just go back to the template library and upload them from there. Okay, so it shouldn't be scary. And it is a necessary process to do during the planning so that during execution, we don't have multiple documents around that we're not even going to use in the engagement. All right. Okay. So you even can see on the lead sheets, the non-current assets is now not all that big list of possible non-current assets that any client might have. But now we know that specifically for wrap-up manufacturing, we only have 5 classes of non-current assets. Right? Then, now we are done with the first part. The first part, which was just us scoping to say these are the areas we'll look into and these are the areas that we will not look into. Now let's look at the risk assessment itself now. Let's determine the risk of material misstatement. Okay. I will just jump back to the FSA. The FSA is found, let me show you, is found under risk assessment, identifying financial statement assertions. Then you open that, then the FSA is there. On my side, I've already had it open. Okay, so you go to the FSA here and you say, okay, now I want to only look at the risk assessment. But this document is just too long. It's just distracting. I don't want to see anything that has to do with this part. What is this part? It's distracting me, right? This part is important, but if you're new to using this document, you may see it as, okay, it's just a big table. I only want to see the parts that are relevant to the step that I'm in. What you can do is that you can filter using these buttons here. So currently we are on the all field, which is why we're seeing all these columns, but you can just go to planning when you're doing planning and only have these columns, which are your accounts, their materiality assessment, and the risk, and them being linked to the specific cycle. When you go to risk assessment, you can just click on risk assessment, and now you're only seeing the portion of the table that relates to your risk assessment. Okay, so we'll have it open like this, right? So in the risk assessment, you'll then now determine or score your inherent risk, score your control risk, and score your risk of material misstatement. So here you'll just, another thing I need to show you is you'll see that I've already expanded my trade receivables, but how the tablet comes is that it comes with the assertion levels being collapsed. So you just have trade and other receivables. It shows that there's two risks, but you don't know what these risks are linked to. So you'll go and expand the trade and other receivables and see that, oh, all the risks that I have in trade receivables are associated with the accuracy and valuation assertion. So you want to assess the inherent risk and the risk of material misstatement for accuracy and valuation. Okay. Again, that with the assessing of the risk, I'm sure you saw there on the dialogue that, let me just open the risk dialogue again. Or another way is you can just click on the number 2 there, and it's going to take you to the risks that have been identified specifically for trade and other receivables. So here we see that we have foreign currency risk on trade receivables, and it has been described here. So these are all the work that I did before giving you this file, right? So it's work that you would have done when you are understanding the engagement and identifying the risks. Then it has been associated with the trade and other receivables account, which is why it's shown here. Then now the assessment, so you look at the likelihood to, okay, assess it, the magnitude, assess it, then come up with your inherent risk. And if relevant, you determine your control risk, then you will automatically get your risk of material misstatement. Okay. For areas where you need to look at the control risk specifically or assess the control risk, the dialogue we have is this one. It's called the control dialogue. Let me just click on it and show you. So this is where you document the controls, the attributes of the controls, and evaluate the DNI, like the design and implementation of the control, which is where you see your risk, your, what is it? Control risk assessment. This is where you find it. Okay, so for areas like your significant risk areas, or where what's the word, where substantive procedures alone cannot give evidence, you know that term, right? Then you, or any other areas, you know the reasons why we need, or maybe your approach, you determine that you want to test, you to use a combined approach, you can then come back and use this part to then get your control risk, then determine your risk of material misstatement. So this is what you populate. Okay, last part. The last part, what we're doing here, we're trying to now formulate the audit plan. So after, let's go back to all. After we have scoped to say these are the areas we'll be testing, the others we won't be testing, and we have assessed the identified risks to score them if they are, if we have medium risk of material misstatement, low, significant, insignificant. These are all the options that we have here. So now we are going to now determine what's the appropriate approach. How are we going to respond to the risk of this significance? How are we going to respond to these identified risks now using the further audit procedures, right? To assist you with that, please go and open the audit program for trade and other receivables. I'll show you some guidance that we've built in to assist you with the decision on what to select here in your risk response phase, being you determining I've just filtered it here by clicking on risk response so that we only see this area. So we're looking at now, I just like seeing everything all at once. I'm not used to summarizing it. But basically what we're doing here, or filtering it is the correct word. So what we're trying here to assist you in knowing which to select. Are we going to select the substantive procedures, just the basic ones, or we're going to have extended substantive procedures like your sampling, your fraud procedures, significant risk areas? Are we going to do the substantive or perform the substantive analytical procedures? Are we going to do any or perform any test of controls? So that's what we're trying to select here, our audit approach, right? So I said that guidance is in the audit program. So you go click on the audit program. On my side, I already had it open. When you open this document for the first time, this area will be collapsed. So I just expanded it because I wanted to document on it. This is your audit program. It has a mini risk report, report here saying, oh, these were the tourists that have been associated with the trade and other receivables. It has your materiality here, and the balances, right? But where I want us to go is here, the detailed audit response considerations. So to assist you with determining your audit approach, we have this checklist. So we're looking at, is the account balance material? Are there assertions that cannot be addressed by substantive tests alone? Are the internal controls overrelated? All of these, right? These are some of the other considerations that you may want to consider for you to decide or to determine what is going to be the appropriate audit response or audit approach to the identified risks. So after you have completed this part doesn't change anything in your selections, but it's just to guide you in terms of what to think about as you are determining your approach. So for specifically trade and other receivables, we thought about these things and all the other things that auditors think about when they're applying their professional judgment to determine the audit approach. Then after you've applied yourself, thought about it, you then go back to the financial statement area document. It's actually linked. I should have clicked on the link just to show you how it's nicely linked. Okay. Ooh. Let me use this side. Okay. So the FSA is linked here. So you can just click here to go back to the FSA. All right. So here then you'll come back and determine, okay, for the risk that has been, the two risks that were identified, for the accuracy and valuation assertion that were assessed as medium risk of material misstatement, I want to add the basic substantive procedures. I do not want to add the extended substantive procedures. I also do want to perform some analytical procedures. Then I do not want to test controls. So my approach is going to just be these, right? What that happens is in your audit program, the procedures that you have selected then will need to be added to your audit program. Your audit program as a given, let me go back to the audit program. So we've selected them. The audit program as a given, it only has the basic substantive procedures. So if in the FSA, you then select any other procedures, it's going to tell you that, okay, we know that you have selected in the FSA that you want to test control. So you want the test of control procedures. Please just add them. They are there in the library, but they're not really appearing. I'll show you how to add them. Okay, let's go and add them. I want to go back to the audit program. Then in the audit program, you will see that by this icon, right? So after you've documented this part, we're happy with it. Then we're like, okay, this is your selection. You said you're going to test, you're going to, let me focus on just this area because we've been speaking about accuracy and evaluation. We said we're going to perform basic substantive procedures and substantive analytical procedures. Then it's telling us that, okay, we saw that you selected the basic substantive procedures and these ones, but the work program is missing necessary procedures. What does this mean? The substantive analytical procedures are not yet added to the audit program for the specific reasons that the template just comes in with only the basic procedures. So should you select any of these procedures like your substantive, the extended ones of the test of control, you will see this icon. So what you need to do, you just need to click on the icon, then you will choose them by selecting the checkbox. They're going to give you a preview of what procedure they're adding. Then you're going to click OK. Automatically, those procedures are then going to come and get added to your audit program. They are from the library. Okay. So it's still executing that script. You will see then it's telling you that, okay, there is now a new procedure that has been added. With your extended substantive procedures and your test of control, it actually becomes a big list of new procedures that become added. All right, so we see that, we're happy with that. So what you then do is you go back to your FSA now and say, all right, I have completed, before you say you completed your risk assessment, there's some other thing you need to do. But I won't really display how it's done because, again, it's nicely displayed in the e-learning. So you will then go in, read these procedures, edit them, delete the ones that are not relevant, but that's really optional. You can do that now, or you can do that later on, or the person that's executing can do that. But as long as we're happy that the necessary procedures, they have the necessary procedures in terms of the substantive basic procedures and the substantive analytical procedures in our case for testing the accuracy and evaluation assertion. We are happy that these procedures are going to be able to respond to the medium risk that has been assessed over the accuracy and evaluation of trade and other receivables. So what you then do is they ask you here to say, based on your professional judgment, are the procedures outlined above, so this selection, sufficient to address the assessed risk? So here you're going to then reply yes or no, okay? Which will most likely be yes because you were the one that was selecting those procedures. If not, then you need to just go back and add them, right? But if no, you then need to explain why. Then you put your comments here because as auditors, we always need to document the logic behind what we did. So you will select here to say, okay, my audit plan became this for these reasons, right? Or audit approach in this instance. Then we go back to the FSA and we say, For trade receivables, accuracy and valuation assertion, the risk that we identify, we are happy that we've completed the risk assessment. The moment you say that you've completed the risk assessment, no matter what you try doing now, it's not going to automatically optimize your audit program, right? If you try to make any changes to the audit program now, we do not want you to be making changes to the audit program afterwards, because it's done optimizing. So anytime you want to add your test of control, or maybe you change the approach and you want to add test of control as well, or add substantive audit procedures, what we want you to do is deselect the risk assessment, then select whatever control you want to add, then go back to the audit program. Again, you'll see that red X there, then add those new procedures that would now need to be added as a result of you having selected that now you want to add test of control as well. Then you'll come back and sign. Right? That is how it all has been built in. Right? So now, after this, you would have your full picture. You would have done your scoping, you would have done your risk assessment, and you would have developed your audit approach. So that is all I had for you today. I hope that you found the session quite insightful. And if you have any questions, please just drop them in the chat box. I've checked the chat box. I saw that there's no new questions. Let me just go back to the slide so that we see that in future, should we have questions in future, where can we get the help? Okay. I want this one. So, should your file maybe not function as I had explained, or maybe you're trying to click something and it's not working as you expecting it to work, we have you, we've got you. We have our caseware support team. They're available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to assist you. You can call them, or you can just book a consultant here by clicking here. Then you'll see their calendar. Then click a time that's more suitable to you. Then you'll get assigned a consultant that will attend you at that specific time that is suitable for you. But if it's an urgent case and you want someone to respond to you right there and there, you just click on the chat with us function. You'll first chat with the chatbot, then you'll stand on a queue and a support consultant will assist you from there. Then, should you want to recommend maybe to your audit partners or your audit managers that you feel like the team just needs some more training on Audit International, what you can do is you can just let them know that they can go to our success.caseware Africa page and check for the upcoming trainings that would be found in our calendar there. Okay, because we do have sessions where we train Audit International every now and then. Okay, then should you have any questions, I saw there were no questions for now, but should you have any questions, be it relating to the session, the content that we covered today, or it's relating to the software or the Get Ahead series itself, what you can do is you can send us an email to caseware.getahead@adaptit.com. Right? But again, this does mark the end of our session. Thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations for reaching the end of the series. Goodbye.